Hello and welcome back or welcome to the channel. I'm Loudguns and in today's vid I just wanted to cover an event that we ran last weekend, aiming to complete Wikelo Polaris within a 48-hour time frame. We wanted to see if it was an achievable goal, and see whether we could track our progress and balance our efforts across the various inputs required. We also wanted to offer something a bit different for our members. Usually we'll do raid type content where we meet up at X time and the activity runs for 2 or 3 hours. I wanted to simulate what being in an org during a live release of the game would be like. Turn up when you like, and know that there'll be various groups hitting various content, working towards the overall goal. So if this sounds good to you, then grab a cup of tea while I roll the intro, then let's get into it. Polaris is the top end of the current Wikelo Missions, so let's start by just breaking down all of the required ingredients. To start with, we've got this list with 60 Wikelo Favours, 50 Polaris Bits, 10 Ace Interceptor Helms, 15 Charonite, 15 Jaclium, 10 Soldinium, a set of Anarendro armour, a Parallax Fun Copion rifle, and then some rare items such as a Pico Ball, Red Wild Blast pistol, Amiyoshi Plague, and a Tavarin War Medal in pristine condition. To seal the deal, we've also got to get the Crazy Aliens, some burritos, and pips. However, a number of these items are from other trade-in missions, so we can blow out the list to give us some constituent parts, helping to see what we need to focus. So 60 Wikelo Favours becomes 3000 Merc Gold Scrap, and 50 Polaris Bits becomes 1200 Quantanium. In particular, it's noticeable that while the headline numbers of Hathor gems, the Charonite, Jaclium, and Soldinium, are actually quite low at 15, 15, and 10, they pick up quite a lot once you factor in the other parts that you need them for. So just to be clear, before I see you didn't do this in 48 hours in the comment, our goal was to get all of the constituent materials in our 48-hour weekend. The hand-in will come afterwards, and as we'll come on to, with the current systems and constraints, it's probably going to take longer than the gathering stage does. Now that we know what we're going for, it's time to start thinking about splitting up our party. The great thing here is that rather than having to organise and run one huge party, we were able to split into multiple smaller parties, each focusing on a specific area. Our mining party went out for the Quantanium, with a mixture of prospectors and golems to scout out the rocks quickly, while we had a number of mole crews to provide the power and stability required to crack the bigger nodes. The key thing here was to concentrate the mined goods at a single location. For this run we centred around ArcL2 for our refining jobs, while we mined out the moons of ArcCorp. This helps a lot when it comes to picking up the goods and then taking them to get them converted over into Polaris Bits. The PvP combat party though was focused on the Hathor sites, aligning the dishes, firing the laser and opening up the cave to get to those unique gems. The new Argo Atlas Geo is absolutely the thing you want for getting the most out of the pit in the time that you have, and we're really looking forward to seeing this thing being available to buy in-game in 4.2. One thing we did notice doing this was that Soldinium is probably the hardest of the 3 gems to acquire in the quantities that you need for the Polaris, while Charonite and Jaclium tend to build up in bigger numbers. The PvE combat party was busy getting the required Merc Guild script to turn into favours and the Ace Interceptor helmets. With multiple smaller groups within this party hitting a variety of patrol and ambush missions, the helmets were actually acquired pretty quick since we only needed 10 of them. The script is a bit more of a grind, but we did benefit from the Hunt the Polaris mission that paid 30 MG script per participant. So we were able to group up and run this with everyone just chucking their 30 into the pot at the end. And finally we had the exploration party, which went out in search of the rare items. Some, like Amiyoshi Plague, were really easy to find at the derelict outposts, and the various hunting items like Copion Horns and Marek Gems, while a little bit fiddly, weren't too much of a struggle. The 2 really tricky items from this list though were the pristine Tavarin War Medal and the Pico Ball. Pico Balls are a random spawn that can be found at the various aid centres, while the War Medal has a chance to spawn in chests. These can either be at the derelict outposts, which are a bit harder to navigate to since delivery missions don't work, or where Ravnak found our one at the Hathor sites in blue boxes. This worked out pretty well since we could have our PvP team locking down one of the sites. While they focused on gems, we could have the looters dropped in and searching the outbuildings of the OLP. Overall, everything, with some spare contingency, was actually gathered in just under 40 hours. We started at 9 AM UK time on Saturday morning and we wrapped things up around 7 PM on Sunday evening. Now the hand-in is where, for reasons I think have been catalogued at great length by now, things get bottlenecked. But since you are here, I'll break my 2 cents down into 2 minutes. To me, the whole Wikelo system is essentially crafting tier -1. While it's got a different backstory and there's a lot of magic curtain involved, it does boil down to a crafting system familiar from survival games. Put ingredients in via the freight elevator, get item out. Some of these items become components for more sophisticated crafts. Now CIG probably have their reasons for doing this the way that they've done it, and I'm no developer, so I can only talk about the player experience. The whole system has 2 key problems to my mind. Number 1, why is this mission based? Hopefully in the future they'll be able to introduce the actual crafting flows, and I'll be able to drop my resources and select what I want to make via the terminal. If it does have to be mission based though, why is it a shared mission? For turning in the scripts, this meant hours of server hopping, spamming the contract manager and flying around the 3 randomised locations to get that converted over to favours. For other missions in game, we each have essentially individual contracts, so surely that would make more sense if it has to be done via a mission. And number 2, RNG. Just why? One of the ingredients for the Polaris is a full set of the Anorii armour, which is made via the Armour with Horn and String mission. This is fairly resource intensive and it takes 30 Saldinium, 20 Caronite, along with Cave Copion Horns, Marek Gems and Fizz Triple Berry. But each completion will give you a random one of the 4 pieces, and you need that full set for the turn-in. So we farmed extra stuff in our period, and we did 6 hand-ins total, but we still ended up with 2 of every piece apart from Lex. Now thankfully we can use a marketplace like UEX to find a trade. There are a number of people looking to trade one of their duplicate pieces for the missing part of their set. In this instance, I found somebody who was just willing to sell the legs that we were short, and I just paid for them so that we kept 3/4 of another set ready for the next Polaris that we build. However, a system that is either forcing people to frustratingly roll and re-roll, or forcing people outside of the game to third-party sites looking for a trade is clearly badly done. I think RNG makes some limited sense, so for example, I think it's good for the exec hangars. Until you claim that ship, it could be anyone's, and you could be in a PvP situation that determines who actually gets it. So it does make sense for that to be completely random, because the ship that I want might not be the one that you do. But Wikelo is meant to be a trader. He wants my valuable goods. Well, I want legs, not another helmet. To be fair, this also applies to Wikelo's various ship trades. And I know it's an element that puts people off the system in general. Nobody wants to grind because they really want an F8, only to get a Starlancer, and have to just start over again and try again. After this vid goes live, I am just going to put up a community poll on the community tab of the channel. I just want to ask the question, do you think Wikelo Missions should be RNG based? I'm interested to see the results, but I don't think that many players actually want this. But later in the week, we gathered to actually hand the stuff in. Honestly, even though we took precautions and shipped the goods in batches with security escort, thanks very much to our Legion PvP team, the final flight in with the favours and some other bits and bobs was amongst the most nerve-wracking journeys in my time playing Star Citizen. One of our orgs captains, Sniping Cat, sent the stuff down the elevator, and maybe a good idea for anyone else attempting this, he first checked using some of the smaller missions like the favours or the Polaris bit turn-ins, that the elevators on the station we were at were actually working as expected. And he then fulfilled the order for the Polaris in chunks, not just all in one go. This way, at least, if there was a bug and some of the components had disappeared without registering, we'd only have lost a portion, not all of the materials. This takes a bit more time, but I think it's worth doing. But ultimately, that glorious Polaris came up in the hangar. Now I think the most important word in "we built the Polaris in 48 hours" is the "we." Members of the community and the org came together for this one and all put in the effort so that we could get the ship, and I would like to say a really big thank you to all involved. Ultimately, it's a circular endeavour, since this will give us another asset as a group to hit more content like this going forward, meaning that we can accomplish more goals. I think it's a really great example of an org level challenge that rewards players who want to work together for a common purpose. And hopefully, most importantly, everyone who got involved had a good time and enjoyed the gameplay. I just want to paint a realistic picture on the total number of hours involved. I didn't take attendance, but I think that roughly over the course of the weekend we had just over 100 people pass through, and they probably averaged 3 to 4 hours each. So in total, it's likely 300 to 400 hours of gameplay to achieve the asset gathering. And some parts of this, like the quant mining and the script gathering, were more efficiently done as a group. We could scout faster and crack bigger rocks, or we could power through higher level mercenary missions thanks to fully crewed multi-crew ships. So while this is probably possible solo, I think you'd be looking in excess of 500 hours of grind on your own. Ultimately, the prize at the end of this journey is a large multi-crew ship, not a single-seat fighter. So I think it is in effect self-balancing. The grind might be too much to be done alone, but it's not like you can really use the ship solo anyway. If this vid makes you think you'd like to get involved with org-based gameplay, then please do pop into the FRCN Discord, the link's just down in the video description. This, like many of our events, was open to all members of the community, and it doesn't require signing up to join our org. We just really like to give people a proper taste of multiplayer activity in the game. If you enjoyed this vid and you think I've earned it, then please do hit the like button, and if you're not, subscribe for more content. I've been taking the occasional peek into 4.2, but some of the content there looks so cool that I actually don't want to spoil it for myself too much ahead of a live release. But when that drops, we'll be sure to go and check it out. With all that being said, I just want to say thank you very much for watching to the end, and I look forward to seeing you next time.